Welcome to Stand, Speak, Shine, episode 208, Healing from the Witch Wound and Connecting to Intuition. When we downplay our intuition, we impact the expression of our inherent gifts. And as it relates to the quote-unquote witch wound, we have to feel safe to express our natural gifts, which means first identifying the thought behind the wound. And often these thoughts are unconscious, of course. They're patterns, they're programs we've inherited. Really great to have Allyson Scammell back on because she was on my podcast. I was on hers a few years ago before the pandemic. This episode is actually me being on her Soul Guide Radio, which is a podcast for soul guided influencers. And we talked about how the last few years has brought societal unrest and all of our individual fears to light. A lot of us knew that was happening as the pandemic was starting to come out. We were all brought inside to examine what we believed about ourselves, life, how we created our own containers to bring forward what it is that we long to create. So a lot of people have shifted their life path, their business path, their soul path really over the last few years. And a lot of you are still in transition with that. We'll go into deeper pieces of this conversation over the next couple of weeks in the Stand, Speak, Shine community on Facebook, which you can ask to join, as well as on Instagram, Cherie.Burton. Allyson Scammell is a master intuitive coach, psychic medium, and energy healer. She's helped thousands of soul-guided leaders, influencers, and entrepreneurs upgrade their energy frequency so they can gain the momentum they desire in business and in life. Yay! We're here!
Hi, Cherie.
Hey, Allyson. So you're Netherlands, I'm USA. I love that we get to use this technology to connect, and we're recording this on Valentine's Day, just FYI, everyone. So when you and I last talked, it actually sent my head spinning a little bit. Well, by the way, we've both been on each other's podcasts years and years ago, but when we last talked, like last week or whenever it was, week and a half ago, it's just like, oh, we've got to bring this discussion to our greater audiences, because I feel like this topic of gifts and the reticence to express your gifts and the fear surrounding that is so palpable and so real. It feels like now the collective is facing that shadow of where does that originate? Like, because we know it didn't start with us.
Yes, absolutely.
So I feel like, let's start with your 5 gifts or 5 ways, and then let's just kind of move through that. And then we'll get into the trauma pieces and how we sort of heal and express ourselves from that place of empowerment.
Perfect. So we have what I teach is, and I get this from from Source, from my divine guidance team, is that we all have primarily 5 key spiritual gifts. Now, of course, our spiritual gifts are really infinite, and you could talk about them in an infinite number of ways. But a nice way to understand them, and it actually enables you to tap into them deeper, is to think that they all fall more or less into 5 broad categories. And they are our gift of intuition, which we're all pretty familiar with. And that's your ability to connect to and communicate to the spiritual realm, to your higher self, to your intuition. So those intuitive gifts. And the second one is our gift of healing. And we all have a healing gift inside of us. And these are spiritual gifts. So the healing often pertains to our energy, healing those wounds that you were referring to earlier, those wounds that often don't come even from this lifetime. And they might come from our ancestry, and they might come from a past lifetime experience, or they might come from something in the collective that's not even ours. We're just taking it on. And we have a spiritual gift to actually heal ourselves. I say it's like taking the energy shower. We're very, very good at cleaning our physical body pretty much on the daily, most of us. Yeah. But then we forget to tend to our own energy hygiene. And that's where our spiritual gift of healing can really enable us to cleanse our energy body. The third gift is our gift of manifestation. And I relate to manifestation as an energetic frequency where we're tapping into the vision of our higher potential. And that's really an energetic frequency of us vibrating more fuller, higher, and a higher, more aligned potential, holding the more space for joy. And in that, sometimes we get a vision that's coming from the energy frequency that has us writing a book or living a more joyous life or in a loving relationship.
You to action. It's such a strong pull to move to action in some way, to create something.
Correct. And likewise, we can say like, oh, I'm going to get a vision for myself for a year's time of highest aligned success. And I'm going to do it 3 days in a row. And we could get 3 different visions of us doing 3 different things, but the energy frequency is always going to be basically the same. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And our feeling states, some of us will be in peace and some of us will be in wild exhilaration, just depending on where you are in your journey. The core valued feeling states are going to be the similar in each vision. And that's really our spiritual gift of manifestation.
Interesting. So it sort of culminates in some kind of a physical expression, would you say, whether that's an actual feeling that's coming through that, I don't know, feelings are physical to me. They're not just spiritual and emotional.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's like a visceral, like, what do you call it? Somatic. Yeah, you can feel like it's tangible. You can feel it, the energy.
Yes, exactly. And so the heart of manifestation is really feeling in this moment what we want to grow to, the desire we want to experience, the growth we want to have. And it's an energetic frequency and it's a feeling state.
That's I've played in different camps of people and just kind of checked in with different communities to kind of see, people are on different religious paths, they're on different spiritual paths, they're on atheism or agnosticism, whatever, or Gnosticism, or deeply devoutly religious or whatever, or non-identified. And it's like the general sense that I get, I was going to say feeling, but the general sense that I get from, let's just say, people that don't identify with a religion or a certain spiritual path is that you can't rely on your feelings, that your feelings are, can do you wrong. They can manipulate you, etc. And what I hear you saying, and I would tend to, agree with you and be in this camp, is like, well, if you can't rely on that, what can you rely on? And there's a purity that comes through with feelings. Would you agree?
100%. I offer that, and are you familiar with Abraham Hicks?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Hicks,
yes.
Yeah. And so Abraham Hicks calls us our emotional guidance system. And I really align to this too, that our emotions always tell the truth. Always tell the truth. If we're sad, if we're anxious, if we're overwhelmed, they
have information to share with us.
Yes. And it's a guidance. Something's wrong. There's a wound. There's a wound. Mm-hmm. We're stressed. We're not a bad person. We don't bite off more than we can chew. I think that's what we think. Like, oh, I'm stressed out. I'm biting off more than we can chew. Well, that might be the case. But underneath that there's a real wound that's causing this pattern, and it's triggering this stress. So the stress is just the truth, and it's just a guidance. There's something inside of you wants to be healed.
Yeah, I love that. And even from a neuroscientific standpoint, feelings, and let's just say emotions, are at the cellular biological level, like they're information carrying molecules. That's what they are. They carry information. Yes. And so by the time that you feel, so most physical illnesses, let's just say stress being one, by the time it manifests physically, it's already had this emotional root underneath for some time, sort of percolating. And then by the time it bubbles up to the surface and we feel it physically, like you said, it's almost time for this grand time out. It's like, oh, what are you teaching me? What do you have to show me? So that is where I think that internal guidance system can kind of move us as a teacher. So feelings, I've heard different things like feelings aren't facts. And then I've heard feelings are facts. And then but I do think that there's a delineation between emotions and feelings. So the way that I learned this from a teacher was emotions have charge. They carry information. And sometimes it's not, let's just say, healthy doesn't mean it's not true. But the way we've perceived something and locked it in as a belief later becomes an emotion, whether it's illusory or factual. Feelings are just pure source. And that could mean anger, by the way. And that doesn't have to mean like peace and love and light and joy. It could mean fierce anger at injustice, or something coming through that's moving us to action, a very strong feeling. So it's almost the way that it was explained to me is like feelings are like the parents and emotions are the children. And the children are just like all over the place and like emoting. And the feelings are like, my child. Like, you are, so for me, it's been a kind of a master class for me, and emotions is this, like the work of Byron Katie, if a really strong emotion comes up, I don't always want to go into analysis because that can take me out of feeling that emotion.
Oh,
but at the same time, I want to stay grounded in, is this true? Is this true? And just keep asking and asking and asking. And usually it's an outside trigger that makes those emotions come up really, really strong, like a person usually, or something we see on the news. So I was just going to offer that too, because, they say love is blind, and I hate that phrase, but I get it. We can often be sabotaged or manipulated through emotions that aren't factual. But you're right. They're true. They just are. And when emotions come up, they just are. There's it's not like, you're not right. It's like, no, I want you to feel.
Yeah. And I think, underneath the emotion is typically a story, right? And we can be telling the story, like we can be saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And that's triggering the emotion of unworthiness or shame. And what I find is true is the shame and the unworthiness. That's true. You're feeling that. Your body, your energy body is resonating. Our emotions create an energetic resonance. And painful emotions are quite low in resonance, and joyful emotions are quite high, right? So love, peace, gratitude is some of the highest we can be resonating. Shame, powerlessness, unworthiness is some of the lowest. So I like to see it as our emotions are the truth of where we are in this moment. What's not true often is the thought that's triggering the painful emotion or the story. I'm not good enough is that's where the illusion comes from.
Yes. Good distinction there. Yes, because, and I've also heard the phrase perception guides biology. So
cool.
What we're perceiving, like you have two people standing right next to each other and they're having the exact same experience. One person is perceiving it one way, the other isn't perceiving it the other way. And say one is perceiving it a healthy, grounded way, one is not. They're going to have a completely different biochemical response because of their perception. And it just creates that chain reaction, event, perception, emotion, or belief, emotion, feeling, whatever. And it creates that cascade of biochemical responses that are not conscious.
Yes.
So this is what stress is. Stress is perceiving something in your environment as threatening, fearful, whatever, overwhelming, let's just say, and through that perception, that is what is creating stress in the numbers we have in play-like proportions, because people don't feel safe. They have lost, and I have felt this too, like losing the ability to be grounded, to stay rooted and connected.
Yeah.
So that's the path, right? Is how do I stay lined up when everything around me is seemingly in chaos or not safe or in disrepair or unknown. And And that gets to a real collective wound I think we have right now, from the pandemic, really, really rattled our collective that it's not safe. It's not safe to hug people. It's not safe to be in public. It's, basic human needs. Right. It's not safe. And that created collective stress, just stress
in the collective, and because we all are connected to, we all have our unique point of awareness, we have our unique soul experience, we're all connected to the same energy field. So when that energy field gets, stressed on a collective magnitude, we all are going to be more prone to those lower vibrational emotions of feeling unsafe and feeling that stress, that anxiety, that overwhelm.
Yeah. All the more reason to be attuned to your inner state so that you know when you're in a low frequency state versus, and you brought this up with thoughts. So I always tell people, if the thoughts are making you feel lesser than with the accompany that emotion, let's just say, if they're disempowering you, if you're finding it difficult to neutralize them, that's when you know it's time to take a time out and do self-care and heal and breathe and do nothing but address, because it's your body is literally screaming for you to stop.
Yeah.
And when you lose the ability to neutralize a strong emotion, just sit with it. Just sit with it, because that's what it wants.
Yes.
And that's where we're afraid to do that, right? Let's say shame comes up. It's like, oh, I hate this feeling. Oh, yeah. Like, what if I met that shame?
Yes.
What if I showed compassion to that shame? And then or gratitude even. Thank you for showing me. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for trying to protect me. And then the frequency just starts to rise up the scale when you meet that emotion. Sit with it. That's not easy to do. I'm making it sound so easy, right? But it's not easy to do.
Well, really it's not. And yes, and you can lean into the ease of it when you befriend your emotions. that can feel tricky, but emotions drive so much of what we do, as you just described. Emotions drive our desires. I mean, most of us aren't really driven. Like, let's say we're in business and we want to launch an offering and sell it out. Most of us aren't driven so much by like, I want 20 people in my program. Most of us are driven by how that would make us feel. We can serve 20 soul clients and we can impact the world and have a ripple effect. And that would feel like such contribution, and they would pay for this, and that would feel very abundant. And that it's those feelings that drive our desires. And likewise, as you smartly pointed out, it's the feelings that we like, the shame and the unworthiness that we try to hide from. And so we go to the Netflix, or we go to the wine, or we go to like, I'm going to reorganize my closet, the busying things to distract ourselves from not feeling the thing that we don't want to feel. Yeah. And what I say about that is, when you can identify the thought, okay, I feel unworthiness. Why? What's the story I'm telling myself that's triggering this? I'm not good enough. Okay. So now we know I've got this feeling, or this thought, this belief system, I'm not good enough. For example, triggering unworthiness. Giving yourself, now, when you've noticed that, okay, I've got unworthiness going on here, try to just focus. When you just focus on the emotion, take the thought away for a sec. Like, okay, the thought is there, but I'm just going to like put it in the shelf for a sec. And I'm just going to be for 60 seconds in unworthiness, and just give myself with safe, feeling compassionate, as much as feels safe to feel in this moment, and just feel that. There's actually quite an ease to it when you're not associating the unworthiness with the I'm not good enough. The thing that's painful is the thought. Yes. The emotion itself.
It's our thoughts literally that are killing it.
Yes.
Not in a good way, killing it. Well, it could be.
So that's what I teach people. Yeah. Name the emotion, give yourself permission to feel 30 seconds, 60 seconds, go back to your breath, and you'll be surprised. Your vibration will raise. All of a sudden, that painful thought just kind of dissolves. It might come back, it might not, but it dissolves in that moment, or it feels less powerful on you. And all of a sudden, you feel a spaciousness. You feel relief. You feel a higher vibrational emotion coming in. And then all of a sudden, there's an ease that arrives.
I love that. Yeah. So expansive. And also you build trust for yourself this way. It's like, oh, okay, what was the old way? Oh, old way was like, I project, or I blame, or I sabotage by Netflix and binging and whatever. But now that I'm aware that I create my thoughts. I create my reality. I choose how to feel. And this honestly was like, I mean, I have a psychology degree. I've done tons of life coaching. Literally the light bulb did not go on for me on this until I would say probably about 5 or 6 years ago, right before I had my kind of big, I call it my sacred feminine initiation awakening. I don't know what it was, but it was like, I create my reality inside of me all of the time. And all we are is walking manifestations. And to use that word again in your 5 things is like, we are walking manifestations of the thoughts we've thought, the feelings we've felt. And yes, we've all passed through really hard things, some more than others. And I don't want to minimize trauma or any of that. We all have that going on, some worse than others. However, at any given moment in time, I think the real change happens when you say, it's me. It's all me. It starts with me, it ends with me, and in the middle is me. I am the common denominator of my life experience. And that is a lot like radical self-accountability. You have to do it without shame, though.
Yes.
Right? Because if you're like, yes, I suck, I've created what is all around me. No, like, look at the beauty you've created. Look at the relationships. Look at what you've attracted and all of that. It's not about perfection, but it is definitely about like radical self-compassion meets radical self-accountability and responsibility. And then when somebody is in that space, and I feel like that is a maturity angle. I think a lot of young adults, let's just say I was just having this conversation with one of my kids who are in their 20s, like they're like, Mom, everyone, we don't know any of our friends or anyone online. Everyone's suffering, everyone's hurting, there's so many suicidal young adults and everyone has anxiety and depression. And it's like, yeah. And then we dove deeper into it and underneath it. And it's like, just give them time to have life teach them that they are the one they're waiting for. They're it. They're the answer. And my child was like, ooh, I'm not sure I wanted you to say that. I'd rather be ignorant. But it's true. It's true. We create. Okay. So we've got intuition. We've got healing, manifestation meets feeling.
Yes.
Hey, that was a rhyme.
Yeah. I love that.
Now move us through that again, like the next piece of that.
Yeah. So I love talking about the next 2 because people often are like, oh yeah, I didn't really look at it in that way before. But the 4th spiritual gift is our spiritual gift of teaching. And this transcends the traditional definition of I am an educator and I tell you something and you memorize it and regurgitate it back to me. The spiritual gift of teaching is when you utilize your own unique genius, those unique abilities you were born to share, and you illustrate a different or better way of doing or being in the world to someone else. And you can do that with your kids, your loved ones, your neighbors. You do it in big ways and small ways. I like to use the example of, have you ever been at a store and somebody has gone out of their way to help you, or you just had a good connection to them and you went to pay and you thank them and you just look them deep in the eye and you just saw them and was just like, have you ever had that with someone who was kind of a stranger where you just looked at them and you saw them and you had that eye contact exchange and it's just like, poof, it's like this energetic charge. Like that's in a way, it's a spiritual gift of teaching because you're illustrating a way to connect to someone. And so,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, so this teaching can show up in you're a coach and you design a methodology and you teach this methodology to your people. I mean, I do that. I have my methodologies, and it can be that exchanging the eye contact. Most of us go around our day never feeling really seen, right? Or I think we can go through a whole day and not really seeing someone else.
Sure.
And
people just want to be seen, right? That's all anyone wants.
Seen.
They're like, see me. Just see me.
Yes.
Have you seen the new, I don't know if this is a big craze in the Netherlands, but the new Avatar movie
No, but I want to. I love the first one
because
so much.
I think they mentioned this in the first one too, but instead of saying I love you, they say I see you. Which is like this deeper connection.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the opposite of love is blind, right? I see you.
And I love what you just said, because I think this is the essence of our spiritual gift of teaching, is when we are illustrating something for someone else and the end result is a deeper connection.
There's this quote by St. Francis of Assisi. It's like something like, preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words.
Ah,
so
beautiful.
And he's also the one that did, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, da, 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 da. But it's just like, what teaches people, what I hear you saying, and I totally resonate with, it's like what actually moves people learn through resonance. So it's like we said, it's an energy exchange. All the stuff we're talking about is energy exchange.
Yes.
It's not conscious. So
yes.
One of my life goals, like hashtag life goals, is to be love. Deeply see everyone. I was just in New York City over the weekend with my oldest son, and we went like we were in Times Square, we were like in the subways, we were everywhere, and we were just seeing all this diversity. And I guess I was thinking about this, being love, and to walk through these streets without fear and just to really deeply see people. And I tried it on, and it was so powerful. It was so powerful because nobody makes eye contact in the city. It's crazy. And I tried to do that, and some people would look at me and some people wouldn't. But it's like, it kind of goes back to that, like, be what you want to see in the world, be the change. So if I really want people to see me, hello, everyone in social media is like, look at me. Do you like my house? Do you like my decorations? Do you like but when we really see ourselves, because what you were just talking about with that whole thing with manifestation is just like noticing your emotions, noticing your inner terrain. Oh, I see you. I see you, shame. I see you.
I see you.
That's all we want. We want to be seen for ourselves. And then that's what others are craving as well. So I love the piece of teaching through that medium of seeing. I love that you brought that up.
I love the examples you just shared 100%. And your be love is the perfect segue to our fifth and final gift, which I believe is one of our most important gifts as we ascend and we, bring in, however you describe it. Some people call it the new earth, the age of Aquarius, this higher way of living and being in the world. I believe that this fifth gift is going to be key, and that is our spiritual gift of leadership. And that's truly our state of being. It is being love. And we don't have to do a darn thing. We don't have to teach anything. We don't need to produce.
We don't have to contribute. Yeah.
It's just being. And those who are ready to receive it, obviously our being isn't meant for everyone. And some people it's meant for, they're not ready for it. But when our people are ready to receive our state of being, like you just showing up for your family, for your clients, for the community of New York City, being love, those who are ready to experience your love is going to experience it on a deep and profound level. And you're passing it on to them. And it's going to shift something inside of them in ways that they probably don't have language for. And they probably don't realize they're doing it. And all of a sudden they are going to be in a more aligned state of love than they were the day before.
That's glorious. Yeah, I think leadership can be a charged word for many people.
Oh, yes.
Because it denotes this, like, I have to show up in this powerful way.
Yes.
And I have to be like Moses leading the children out of,
Yes. It's a masculine. It has a masculine, I am leader. I'm guru, you're follower, do as I say. And this is spiritual gift of leadership. We're redefining the word. And it is a soft, very feminine, right? Mm-hmm. Feminine in our body, in our state of being.
It's like radiation. It's not radiation.
Yes.
It's like
radiating. Yes.
Radiating. Yeah. It's a state of radiating. And this is kind of where I got my whole stand, speak, shine, is from this place of, okay, I know who I am. I'm in this, standing in that. I'm expressing from that place without fear. And therefore I shine. I am the I am. I am in a place of radiating light that starts inside of me. I think the old way or the old paradigm was like, you work super hard, you whatever the old masculine paradigm is. There's so many, and it's not about men. Let's just be honest. Like, it's just, there's a lot of women in this energy of like, kill it, crush it, pound it out. And I was in that for a while when I was first building my business. And now I'm like, it's like you said, it's more of this feminine way of like, if I don't feel good in my skin, who's going to listen to me? I think everyone's radar is really up. We can spot people who are out of alignment. Some hide it a little better than others, but we're getting really good at going, there's just something a little bit, that person is not coming from the right place. Right?
Yeah.
And so those kind of leaders are on their way out, I feel like.
Yeah. Cherie, I'm noticing in my business, I am a person who, it's one of my big wounds is that I have a tendency to hustle and burn out. And it's a wound that's always been there with me, but
me too.
Yes. So I would say healing is not, healing is not part of the path. Healing is the path. And when it comes to healing, it's never, ever about, are we all healed? Is it done? It's always about how far have we come, right? Yeah. So when I look back at how far I've come on this issue, I'm like, whoa, I've healed so much. And I'm noticing something so pronounced in my business lately that when I hustle and when I grind, business slows down. First of all, it's not enjoyable for me. And all of a sudden I'm like, where are my clients? And then when I shift out of that and I do my healing and I do my intuition and my healing and my manifestation and I get in my spiritual gifts, and then all of a sudden it's like opportunities and clients just start falling out of nowhere with this ease and flow and ease and flow.
Yeah, it's the magnetism model, which is it's gravitational. There's a force. It's a yin energy. It's feminine. It's pulling towards you versus pushing the agenda on people.
Yes.
Learn this, do this thing versus, hey, I'm not attached, but I would love for you to join me. And I know what you're talking about. Like, burnout was my middle name before this principle really became embodied for me. And I don't want to live my life for other people. I've done that way too long.
Yeah. That's the mom wound, right? Mom wound.
That's the mother martyr.
Yeah.
It's also very like, it comes from an altruistic place because I really deeply want to help humanity. But like you were saying before, there's a collective energy field that everyone's feeding. And I want to contribute to that through my own inner resonance, through my own walk with deep compassion. This is very much a work in progress. Don't lest anyone think that I've got this mastered. It's very much, I love the archetype of the Crone, which has been totally mislabeled and whatever. So it started with maiden, where we were all like obeying and sweet young maidens and whatever. Moved to the mother, which is also very, it's a beautiful archetype. All three of these are. But the mother is more about service and giving and learning and feeding babies and whether you have children or not, it's feeding. It's more of and it's a beautiful archetype of maturity as well. But the Crone is the next level. The Crone is, and it started, everyone in their mind, I think of the old crone, but it actually came from the word crown. The meaning started with the word crown and it just became something different. But the Crone is like, she's been through it all. She's seen it all. She's descended to the underworld. She's come up. She has a different perspective. Her perceptions are clear. We were talking earlier about perceptions guiding biology. Like, she, in a way, has just mastered this path of knowing who she is and embodying that state of love, but also very fierce, very fierce with boundaries, with calling people, let's just say calling out injustice in her own way. And everyone would manifest this archetype differently based on their personality and who they are. But for me, it's like, I no longer live to please other people. That's not, I will assist, I will help. But if I can't be an instrument of peace here in my body, I've lost it. It's like, what's the phrase? You miss the boat.
Yeah.
You miss the boat if you're not feeling it yourself. Trying to teach something you're not feeling.
I want to reflect back to you that you are just exuding amazing, beautiful, spiritual gift of leadership. And I can feel how much you've healed on this. Like I can feel into your healing journey on this, that you haven't always been this way, and you've done the work and you've done the healing, and now you are embodied. That is leadership in this spiritual gift. You are embodied. And it's that I am statement. I am a person who shows up for me. Like, that is who I am. That is the truth of who I am. And I don't put the needs of others before mine anymore.
Thank you for reflecting that back. That makes me feel
you're so
happy.
welcome. It's really powerful.
Well, since we last talked, we had our last podcast exchange before COVID. I think it was 2019. Yes. And I've seen this growth in you as well. I want to reflect that back to you. It's just this general groundedness of here's the information. I'm not attached to who receives it. This is what I've come to know for myself. And if it benefits others, that's a great bonus, but I don't need your approval. You give that off really beautifully. So I want to just reflect that back to you.
Thank you.
Man, COVID was hell, wasn't it? Actually 2020, well, okay, part of 2019 too, but 2020, even through last year, 2021, 2022, it was a lot of planetary shakeup. It was a lot of unrest and people's wounds just showing up right here. What I would love for us to end with, Allyson, is how to move through fear of gift expression.
Ooh, I love that.
And I'm going to hold this book up, Witch. Don't let the cover freak you out, everyone, and think I'm worshiping Satan. But this is a beautiful book by Lisa Lister. It's called Witch. And the reason it's beautiful, and it's because it's so straightforward about how this witch wound started, where whether you believe I don't know, but intergenerational trauma or past lives or whatever your belief system is, ancestral, what lives in our DNA right now is a fear waiting to be cleared out. And that is the fear of, if I express my spiritual gifts, I will get burned, I will get maimed, I will get killed, I will get ostracized from my community. The worst.
My family will get hurt.
Yep.
It will hurt my family. Yeah.
My whole community will turn against me. So I've lived this a little bit by having to honor my own inner voice, my own womb wisdom, if you will, and go against the groupthink or my community of origin, and not go against it, but just step into my own path. So I have deeply felt this. I have deeply felt this in myself, and it's still something I work through. How would you address this once we have the awareness that, I have the witch wound, which we all do, by the way, men and women. How can I move through this with these 5 things perhaps, or is there one in particular, maybe the healing one?
Yes, you got it. We use our spiritual gift of healing, and the witch wound is really coming to the surface now. It is, I believe definitely comes from past lifetimes, and it's very, very ancestral. It's getting passed down. And now, because we are ascending as a collective, this wound is coming to the surface saying, hey, light workers, heal me, heal this, so you can truly ascend and tap into your powers, your greatness, your spiritual gifts, your genius. Dust off that cape that you've been, your superhero
black
cape.
Cat and the broom.
Yeah, exactly. and you're your superhero cape, because when we shut our gifts down, it's like saying, I'm not going to express the greatness of myself. This wound tells us it's not safe to do that. So we're being called to heal this and yes, get out, whatever metaphor you want to use, your superhero cape or your hat, your witch hat, and start expressing the truth of who we are. So we go to our spiritual gift of healing, and I am the master in my spiritual gift of teaching. I love 5 steps, everything. 5 is my number. And so I have a 5
2, mostly 2.
Okay, good. I love that. So I have a 5-step healing process for healing any wound. And we're going to use as the example, the witch wound. The witch wound will tell you a lot of different things. And one big variation of it is not safe to express your spiritual gifts, to express your genius. Something bad could happen to you or a loved one. So you just want to notice. For some people, you tend to notice a painful emotion first. That's your emotional guidance system. For others, we tend to notice a painful thought first. So you just kind of want to sink inside your body. Get to your neck down and just notice. You can ask the question. This uses your spiritual gift of intuition. Do I have this wound inside of me? I think it's highly likely you're going to get a yes. And so if you get a yes, you're asked the question, what is the thought this wound is telling me? And you might be getting a lot of thoughts. You could have a lot of variations of the wound inside, which is totally normal. Healing is a journey, right?
So maybe it's just that one thought that's kind of rising to the surface.
You want to find the one thought. You don't want to try to heal 20 thoughts at once. You want to try to find the thought that feels most prominent and or most painful and go with that one. So let's say it comes to the surface. It's not safe to show up as my spiritual self, to talk about my spiritual gifts or talk about spirituality. It's just not safe. I will be rejected and I won't be accepted by my family, by my peers. That's one that comes up a lot with my clients. So when that comes up, this is when, Cherie, we want to throw thought work out the window. And I love thought work, but for just
stop analyzing.
Yes. For the next 2 minutes, throw it out the window, all that you've learned on it. And we want to imagine for about a minute that the thought is 100% true. Why? Because we actually want those painful emotions to come up so we can feel them, which is how we release them. It is how you release the wounds. You feel to heal. Now, if you have quite a lot of trauma around this, I would recommend going to a healer, going to a therapist. But if you feel like you've done a lot of the work and you don't have a real fresh trauma around it, and it feels safe to do this work, then this is definitely something that most of us can do as a home practice, as part of our daily spiritual routine or reflection time. And then you just say, okay, when it feels 100% true, it's not safe to express my gifts. How does that make me feel? Well, sad, shameful. I feel powerlessness. I feel anger. I feel fear. Just name the emotions if you can. If you can, do your best. Sometimes it can feel tricky. And then you just give yourself permission to feel the feels for about 60 to 90 seconds. When we give ourselves permission to feel, emotions come in waves, and they don't come longer than 90 seconds. And if you're in the
belief is I'm going to die, or this is going to take me down or over.
Exactly.
In a spiral forever.
But you want to look at it as healing is a dip down to jump up higher. So that's what we're doing energetically. We're going down, we're sinking down into the painful emotions. You can imagine that these pain pockets are inside your energy body, and to release them, you have to feel them. And so you just imagine these pain pockets are passing through you on their way out of your energy body for good. And you're down in these low vibrational, painful emotions. But then as they release, you will notice in 60, 90 seconds, typically doesn't take longer than 90 seconds, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I feel a neutrality. Oh, then you want to go to your breath, take some deep breaths, really release on the exhale. And all of a sudden, oh, I feel higher than neutrality. Oh, I'm feeling peace now. Oh, I'm feeling joy. And all of a sudden your energy body is rising to higher and higher vibrations because you've just released a wound.
Love it.
Yes.
That's a great encapsulation of the journey we just took everyone on in our whole conversation, because really it doesn't take a lot of time to move these feelings through and to experience that expansion. And one thing that I think is really important that you pointed out is not only do we want to name the emotions that are coming up in the lower frequency spectrum, but also in the higher. Oh, I'm feeling joy, because we don't always do that. We don't always name. We tend to like marinate in the lower and like try to fix it. right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
no, like let yourself expand. If you're into crystals or oils or whatever, like they'll go out in nature. I don't know, but could just grab something of the earth. I have found that frequency expansion happens. And that's why people are drawn to these things now, these holistic things, because they are of the earth. And the earth is like, she wants to help us.
Yes.
She wants to help us move through these denser emotions.
Yes.
Wow. Awesome.
Another cool practice too, just to piggyback on that, is to name, I would say not more than three to six actually, core valued feeling states that mean a lot to you to feel this year. And we have years that we want to feel peace. We have years that we want to feel creativity. So my 3 emotions that I've got harmony, flow, and ease. Ease, flow, and harmony are
so similar to mine.
Oh, I think that's so funny.
No, mine is grace, flow, and creativity.
I love it.
3.
Actually, my bottom 3 are creativity, abundance, and exhilaration.
Girl, we're riding the same waves.
Yeah, I think so. So just having that in your mind, like after the release, you can go to your go-tos if it feels good and say, start breathing. And that's what I'll do. I'll breathe in, flow. Breathe in and release. I breathe in ease, harmony. And you just feel your vibrations raise as you do it.
Awesome.
Yay.
I love the practicality that we've talked about today. And where can people, if they want to dive into more of these 5 things or go into some of your deeper teachings, where can they find you, Allyson?
Thank you for the question. So I have a great little freebie going on my homepage, my website, AllysonScammell.com. And you can find a link to download something I call 10 high vibe minutes. And it's the ultimate daily spiritual practice for busy workers. So so you can hop over there. It's got a guided meditation, my checklist of things that I think are great as part of a daily inner reflection period, as well as video training. And the other place you can catch me is my podcast, Soul Guide Radio, where I offer insights of love and light to serve you on your path.
Sweet.
Yay.
Perfect. Yeah. And
so Sheree,
go ahead.
Yeah, I have 2 questions for you, Sheree. My first question, as we wrap this up, I have 2. I'm taking that again for my people. So, Sheree, I have 2 final questions for you as we wrap this all up. The first one is, can you leave our listeners with an invitation? That's an invitation to do something, be someone, wherever you wish to invite them to go.
Sure. Yeah, the invitation is always just to join my community, Stand, Speak, Shine community on Facebook. And I do have a Stand, Speak, Shine podcast. I have a Stand, Speak, Shine course. So it's all about the stuff we've been talking about. It's just how to really be in your body. And sacred feminine leadership is a huge piece of it. I also have a freebie on my site. So it's standspeakshine.com. You can also find me on ShereeBurton.com. But go to standspeakshine.com and there's a freebie on there about, it's a little mini course on the new feminine leadership paradigm. So it's all about really the things we've been talking about is just what's going on now? What is the new way to guide people? And really it's about guiding people more than it is taking them somewhere. My whole shtick now is guiding people inside of themselves to access their own inner reserves and power. So yeah, That's where I love to play, is this whole Stand, Speak, Shine arena.
I love it. And so my last question is, if you could leave our listeners with an invitation, like a little piece of homework or a little piece of inspiration.
I think I would just go back to, you are the answer that you are seeking. You are the one. And that is not in any way blasphemous against a higher power, a creator, source. It's just that when you tap in and acknowledge and you tap into your heart space and your inner self and you recognize that you have source energy in you, then there's no stopping you. You are the answer. You are what you've been seeking.
Beautiful. There's not a better way to wrap this podcast episode up than that.
I agree. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This has been amazing.
So what does it take to say yes, to show up in your gifts, examine thoughts behind what might be keeping you back from the expression of those gifts, and dive right into the heart of that wound? More and more people are starting to realize that this is the only way out. The only way out being going through it. I talked in this episode about my deep desire to help humanity through inner resonance and compassion, how I love the Crone archetype because it just embodies this love and fierceness. It has clear perceptions and boundaries. As we seek to embody these states, we heal generational patterns that have been in play for the feminine especially for thousands of years. So I like to just always tell people, we are the ones. We are the ones. We show up in tribes to reinforce and galvanize each other against the forces at play that would seek to diminish our light and the fullest expression of our gifts. I want to mention that I have a women's wisdom circle coming out. You can go to standspeakshine.com/WWC for Women's Wisdom Circle. So standspeakshine.com/WWC and find out about how to get on this wait list for the Women's Wisdom Circle. This is going to be a sister tribe to support you as you mature into your gifts, cultivate your inner wisdom, and receive a higher state of consciousness according to your desire. We know now that women transform most powerfully within groups. It's a 6-month container. We're going to journey together over 6 months. I've been so excited to bring this forward for years. Again, it's called the Women's Wisdom Circle, and you can go to standspeakshine.com/WWC or just straight to my website, cherieburton.com, and you can find some information under Work With Me to read more about that. And you can find Allyson Scammell at AllysonScammell.com and find some of her offerings there. Have a beautiful week, and we'll talk to you next time on Stand, Speak, Shine.